for a team to be effective, everyone has to be free of their own thoughts about how things should be done and free of the expectations of how they should be done. And we had situations where people had a normal way of doing things, and perhaps ways they'd done it before. And there was a lot of, not a lot, as you say, we were a good team, but there were constraints around us about how we operated and what we thought we could do and how we should do it. And that was restricting us in terms of how quickly we could change the business and some of the sizes of the changes that we could make. And often there was a sense that actually some things are difficult to talk about, difficult to discuss. So I'm wary that someone has this point of view, this fixed point of view about how this part of the business should operate or what it should do. And so I'm really reluctant to bring up something that would challenge that, because I perceive that they have a certain point of view about it. And this is one of the dramatic changes that happened, having gone through quality of mind training. I think it's that everyone approaches conversations, regardless of whether it's something small and tactical or big and strategic, with a complete open mind, without this fixed thinking about how something should be done or what constraints are as a business or what people, it's that word should, how things should be. Well, the reality is there is no should. There is only what's possible. And so it's really helped to take the shackles off and unconstrain it and help us see when our thinking is constrained and we hadn't even realized it. That's been really valuable. We always thought we were quite good at communication as a team. And then having gone through quality of mind coaching, we realized that there was a lot of stuff that was unsaid on the team. And there might be various reasons why that's the case. Often because we expected that things should be a certain way, but it's really helped. And actually, not just the communication, but the togetherness of the leadership team is kind of above where I've experienced teams to be in the past. I've been on some good teams in the past, but the cohesion we have in the team now is fantastic. There is that real sense that I can bring, or anyone can bring, any topic to the table for discussion. And not only that, but everyone will approach the topic with an open mind. No one will have a particular agenda that they're trying to push in relation to that topic for their own, either for their own personal desires or for the needs of their function, but they all approach it with an open mind as to what's the best outcome for the business on this. So the communication is much better, and I think a lot of that comes from the realization that all of us live in our own separate worlds, basically. We don't really know what anyone else's experience is like or what they really think. And in fact, there's only really one way to find out what someone thinks, and that's to ask them about it. But we do spend a lot of our time assuming we know what people think and then creating new thoughts and new ideas and what we should do about it based on that assumption when actually we might be completely wrong. So it's significantly helped the LT in how we communicate. Like a lot of people in this CEO position, it can be quite stressful at times. We talk about stress a lot, right? And how it affects our lives and our health. And as a company, we've always been quite interested in that and trying to help make sure people have solid well-being. But I think particularly for founders, it's a tough gig. And I guess for me personally, especially with personal stuff that's been going on at the same time, the quality of mind coaching has really desensitized me to a lot of that. It's reduced the kind of level of emotional anxiety, if you like, associated with some of those challenging things, whether it's, firing someone, reorganizing the leadership team, making big decisions about the future of the business, making decisions about money. In my case, getting divorced. There are it's like a continuous set of challenges we have in building companies, a lot of which and a lot of us can react quite emotionally to a number of those. And actually doing this kind of work just helps take some of the seriousness out of it to an extent. It helps you see the world as it really is, and not live every single moment on the roller coaster of each of those different events. And it kind of takes away that narrative that, oh, my life's really challenging because I have all this stuff going on. And actually it starts making it much more enjoyable again, rather than I have a difficult role. It's like, I have this fantastic role where I get to run this company and I get to make these decisions, and it's really going places, and this is going to be a big special company. So it's kind of reintroduced the joy back into it, rather than I've got another difficult thing to do. I've got another difficult thing to do. It's like, well, there are no difficult things. There are just things, right? And this has really helped me to just get perspective on all of that. I must make 20 decisions a day. And I suppose maybe more so, I used to agonize over some of those decisions, or even put them off because I thought they were difficult. They were difficult decisions. Now I suppose I see it somewhat differently. I'm trying to think of a useful way to describe it. But yeah, I think a lot of the decision making feels very natural now, compared to something that has to be worked out and reasoned through and rationale applied to. Obviously there's always a need for information on which to make decisions, but I think more and more I have a real faith in my gut ability to make decisions based on what I know of a situation, my own natural abilities, my experience, and so on. And I don't feel like I need to go through all of that in detail and work it out. I feel like I can just approach the decision with a kind of open mind and a lightness. And decisions start feeling right, and they start feeling obvious. And so it's definitely helped my recognition that there is a decision to be made, the speed with which I feel like I can make the decision, and just an appreciation of, this feels like a good decision, feels right, so I'm going to do that, rather than maybe have a lot of thought about whether it's right or wrong, or it's the best thing or not. It's like, well, there is no real right or wrong. There are just different decisions with different outcomes, and we can make it work in lots of different ways, actually. So yeah, it's definitely easier for me to make decisions. One of the key differences is that there's no techniques to learn on in this kind of work, because as you do the work, it affects the mind at quite a deep level. It's quite foundational. These are quite fine foundational principles. And so actually, if you imagine your whole psyche is built on this pyramid or an iceberg or whatever analogy you want, this affects things at quite a low level, often at the subconscious level. And so it'll actually shift quite a lot in your mind as to how you've been thinking, without you actually consciously realizing it. And what that means is that you'll naturally change your behavior and your perspectives and beliefs and so on following a course, even though you're not actually doing anything, even though you're not trying. So you kind of get the benefits from it without actually trying to do anything, once you've invested 3 days or whatever it might be in doing the work. So that's really key. I would say, compared to, and that's fundamental, and that, I suppose I'll point out, that's fundamentally different to every other course that I've been on of any kind of personal leadership, coaching or team building. It is fundamentally different. Some of the similarities are things like the sense of team building is enormous. The sense of cohesion that we have in the LT is superb. It's really strong. People are really looking out for each other and care about each other. And that's, other courses may offer something like that. But this is really quite profound, I think, in this case. But really, it all comes back to how deeply it affects, in a positive way, the fundamentals of your mind and all of the assumptions you've built through your life. It just shakes the foundations of those a little bit. And so quite a lot of change can happen quite quickly without you actually doing anything, which is great.